Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center, and welcome to Knife AQ, episode 175 of the series where I answer all your questions, sharp or dull. This week, amongst our questions, we're taking a look at handle materials. What's your favorite flavor? All right, for those of you who are unfamiliar with this series, the deal is we take your questions and we take them from the comment section below these videos. So if you've got a question, think it might be worth including in a future episode, drop it down below. Maybe it will be. First question today comes from, gotta practice these things before. Okay.
Never learn.
I'm gonna sound it out here live on camera. Armin Arakelian. We'll go with that. DCA, I've grown to adore brown burlap micarta, but I'm having trouble finding a new knife to add to my collection. I purchased the KnifeCenter exclusive CJRB Feldspar, quite nice, but I'm looking for something with burlap micarta, either frame lock or button lock. Any suggestions? Also love the channel, one of my favorite knife channels on the tube. Thank you. Excellent knife, that CJRB Feldspar. What you want to do is you don't even have to look outside the CJRB range at a couple more exclusives we got, actually. The Pyrite in two different blade shapes here. KnifeCenter exclusive with burlap micarta. And I can't blame you for growing to love burlap micarta. It's just a very cool material. It's got a rustic feel to it, so it kind of can make things feel a little more old school, a little more classic, despite being, you know, micarta is not really a modern material. I mean, it's like 100 years old or so at this point, but it's, you know, it's not wood, it's not bone, it's not like a natural material. So it has more of a updated feel. So it's a nice thing for kind of bridging the gap. The texture on it when finished to a matte finish like on here too is also quite nice as well. But I did get to thinking, I've been kind of jokingly referring to different colored handles these last several weeks or so as different flavors. For instance, an orange handle is cheese flavored. Two questions for you folks in the comments to start the video off today. I'm turning the questions back around on you folks. One, what is your favorite handle material and why is it burlap micarta? No, what is your favorite handle material for a knife? And what flavor is burlap micarta? I have an idea, but I'll save it for next week. I'll see what you folks say. Next question comes from Stephen Stephen Opedariva.
Maybe.
Thomas isn't looking at his screen. He has no idea what I'm looking at right now. Anyway, I have a question for you. Good, you've come to the right place. What kind of multi-tool do you think will retain some historical value in the future? I'm a collector of Opinel and Swiss Army knives. I believe that the Victorinox Replica 1897 and the Victorinox Pioneer carry historical value as they are replicas of tools that were revolutionary in their own way or used in significant historical contexts. I would like to expand collection, was considering the Leatherman Bond, which is a reinterpretation of the original PST. What do you think? Any suggestions? Love to hear your opinion. Sure. I think if you want to represent the original PST, far be it for me to say, like, go look at the aftermarket, but you could always go look at the aftermarket. Those things are still out there and acquirable. But the Bond is, of course, the next best thing. Historical value is an interesting one to look at here because a lot of times when people ask this question, they're talking about monetary value, and outside of situations where something gets like really desirable and then they discontinue it, or gets discontinued and then becomes really desirable, it's sometimes hard to predict those things. But the folks that have them on hand might make a little bit of money. But historical value is another thing, and I understand where you're coming from. In terms of what's on the market new today, maybe the Leatherman Arc, which we have right here. Because even though it's building on the Leatherman Free technology or platform, which kind of changed the game in multi-tools, it's kind of quickly supplanting the Free series, and it's also the first Leatherman or the first pliers-based multi-tool with a super steel blade like MagnaCut right here. It's made really big waves. I think this is going to be one that's well and fondly remembered in the future, like the Wave was, for that matter. The Wave with its outside openable tools and the other kind of tweaks and innovations that that knife or that multi-tool created, definitely worthy of historical context, historical contextual value. I think the Arc would have that as well. You also mentioned, I skipped over the last sentence, I'm sorry. Perhaps get some recommendations for Italian tools that might be interesting to add to my collection. The Leatherman Arc was not the first multi-tool, first pliers-based multi-tool, yes, but not the first multi-tool that I know of with MagnaCut blade steel. This one doesn't have MagnaCut blade steel, but you could look at the MKM, Italian-made, the Malga and Campo series, available with either M390 or MagnaCut blade steel. It's got tie into the Swiss Army knife collection you've already got. It's not a Swiss Army knife, but it's that same kind of form factor. You've got, you know, your various tools and such. You've got a super steel blade. Maybe that's got some historical context for you. Definitely not as influential or as, you know, wide-rangingly popular as the Leatherman Arc has been, even though these are very cool tools. It's just not operating on the same level of the knife zeitgeist, I would say. But that could be a good Italian Swiss Army knife style, noteworthy advancement in the genre. Maybe check that one out. All right, next question comes from Zelder Oloren. Got it. For the next FAQ, I'm looking for a fixed blade knife for an emergency truck kit. I think I may have something for you right over here. I'm often in rural and off-grid mountain areas, so looking for something suitable for things like batoning wood, sparking a fire, and other basic survival tasks. Because it will sit unused most of the time, I don't want to spend a fortune, but I would prefer American-made. Got something for you here. There are, of course, less expensive knives than the Becker BK9, but I think the Becker BK9, because you want an American-made option, is still like a very good value for this sort of thing. Why is this good for a truck kit that will sit unused for most of the time? Well, it's a carbon steel blade, so you could worry about corrosion, but you've got a blade coating here to keep things at bay while it's at rest in your truck. And it does everything you're asking except for one thing, and I'll tell you why that actually doesn't matter here in a minute. 9-inch blade, 1095 high carbon steel, or sorry, 1095 CV, slight difference, high carbon steel. It's got 3/16-inch thick spine and a grind that just plain works, whether you're chopping with it, which it does pretty well, and because of the balance of this whole thing, it does the smaller bushcraft emergency carving types of things that you might be talking about. Other heavier choppers that you can get out there don't do the small thing quite so well. So the BK9 has always been a fantastic option for doing both of those things rather capably. Price-wise, it is going to set you back about $145 these days. But like I said, it's still, for an American-made option, I think your best bet. Now, what won't it do that you mentioned? Sparking a fire. It does not have any crisp area of spine with which you can strike a fire steel. I believe that's what you're talking about. Two things. One, you could mod it very easily with a little Dremel or something, give yourself a section of flat spine, it'll do it. Two, you're talking about a truck kit. So space and weight are less of a concern than if you're talking about an on-body survival kit. Just use the striker that comes with the ferro rod. It's not going to take up enough space or enough extra weight to make a darn bit of difference in your truck kit, and it's safer to use, in my opinion, than something with a sharpened edge on it like this, which could work in an improvised situation if you needed to, with something that has a sharpened spine, but you got the space. You're not going to affect your gas mileage too much. Just use the striker that comes with your ferro rod. That would be my recommendation. All right, next question starts our lightning round for today. Jeff Whitehead. The handle on that Joy of Cooking dogwood knife looks ridiculously skinny. Can't imagine it being comfortable to use in hand. A few people actually mentioned that, so I'll bring it up. The reason I'm going to say that doesn't matter is it's a chef knife. The handle's not really there to actually be held. The handle exists on a chef knife or Santoku knife for balance, because the proper way to hold and manipulate a chef knife is to pinch right here in front of the handle scales. And check out that balance on this knife. It sits really nicely right there. You don't have a big thick blade with this knife. You don't need a big thick handle to balance it out. It balances perfectly. You're not doing this with a chef knife, and if you are, You're probably not having to do it very much. You might have to be like muscling through something. This is what you're doing right there. And the balance is fantastic, and it just plain works. Other knives, you know, we showed a Henkel's in that video last weekend too. That had a big, thick, chunky blade, and it had a big handle to balance it out. This knife doesn't need it. And you don't need to put your hands on it really in the way I think you're thinking about. But your mileage may vary, of course. I will grant you that, but that's my opinion. Hope that helps. Next question comes from David Kane. My question has to do with sharpening different grind styles. I have a work sharp Ken Onion sharpening system, but I'm leery of using a convex style sharpening system on a hollow ground blade. Is it safe to use on other style blade grinds? Yes, absolutely. Here's a Ken Onion work sharp. You've got the belts here that create a convex edge. Here's a knife with a hollow grind here on the back. You're just affecting the edge right here when you grind on the Ken Onion unit right here. So yes, you are creating a convex edge. You're not affecting the hollow grind at all. It's kind of a non-issue, in fact. The only real grinds I would stay away from on a convexing style system like this would be something where you want to maintain an actual flat edge geometry, such as a Scandi grind right here. You want to maintain the flat of that edge instead of convexing it around. Even though over time, even done by hand, you might convex it a little bit. Chisel grinds would be another thing. Might not be the best solution right here, but hollow grinds, flat grinds, even convex grinds, go to town. It's gonna be a good time. Now we come to our final question of the day, which is of course our most serious question of the day, which today comes from mlars85. Hey DCA, I have a serious question. I have had hip reconstruction surgery and I'm being subjected to crutches for the next several months. What knife would you suggest is the most bestest for crutch carry? I got something for you right here. This is the Tramontina cane machete. And no, not just because it says cane in it. Could have said cane sword for that matter. But you mentioned crutch carry. What shape is this? This is the perfect shape for fitting inside the arms of your crutch itself. Just pop it right in there, and when you're ready to go, you know, I'll show you here. You're already right there. You reach down, grab the handle, and you've got your blade.
That's something to lean on.
I'm never ready for these when you do some of those things. That is my most serious answer. But if you were actually asking seriously, I would say whatever neck knife floats your fancy. That's all the time we've got for today, folks. Keep your questions coming, including your most serious questions, of course. Love to see what you folks have for me down in the comments below. If you want to give some alternate suggestions or have alternate opinions to what has been presented here today, love to hear that as well. And to get your hands on any of these knives, check out the links in the description to take you to KnifeCenter.com. While you're there, don't forget about our Knife Rewards program, because the least thing we can do when you buy one of our knives today is give you some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera. We're signing off. See you next time.